Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second installment of SD Plus C's Career Talk. And this afternoon, we will be highlighting how to be the best communication designer. And we are very excited and honored to have two industry practitioners and industry leaders to inspire us, to give us the idea to what are the careers and opportunities installed for a communication graduates. So before that, I'd like to remind all our viewers, all of our listeners, if you have questions, please feel free to comment it so that we can entertain it during this webinar. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our distinguished panel of speakers for this afternoon. Our first speaker is the spokesperson of Philippines leading airline Cebu Pacific Air. As communication in the aviation industry for over 4 years, she had numerous notable experiences in managing stakeholder relations both in the government and in the media. Friends, students, help me welcome our first speaker for this afternoon, Ms. Michelle Rose Lim. And our second, but definitely not the least speaker that we have is he had 30 years of experience in marketing and corporate communications. He has led several industry associations, and this year is the president of both Public Relations Society of the Philippines and Association of Advertising Agencies in the Philippines. He also runs Grupo Agatep, an independent and integrated marketing communication agency with clients including Union Bank, Pizza Hut, Dairy Queen, Mercury Drug, and SM Supermall, among many others. Friends, students, let's give a big virtual welcome to Mr. Norman Agatep. Hi, Sir Norman. Hi, Miss Michelle. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you
Thank you for
both.
joining us this
Good afternoon.
to share your thoughts, to inspire our incoming freshman college students as well as our current communication students to what are the careers, opportunities, and the highlights in the field of strategic communication, marketing communication, and even in the field of corporate communication. And maayong hapon. So to begin with, strategic communication or the field of corporate communication is one of the lesser known, what we call quote unquote lesser known practice of communication in comparison to other types of communication such as the more mainstream like broadcasting, media studies, journalism. So to give idea to our senior high school students, how does strategic communication differ from those mentioned fields of communication? Maybe we can start with you, Ma'am Michelle.
All right, maayong hapon. Thank you, RR. And of course, at tanan, to all our listeners, no? To all the students right now and Norman as well. So, actually, yes, good that you've already mentioned na lesser known nga talaga si communication design, strategic communication, right? So, strategic communication is actually way broader because it is multidisciplinary. So, ang important talaga doon is all the messaging is very purposeful and we have an intention. Why do we say that it's multidisciplinary? Because all those that you've mentioned earlier, the types of communications, no, it will all come into play para ma-achieve ng company or ng group ninyo kung ano yung intended outcome natin for the messaging. So again, it's multidisciplinary and it would entail you to do a research even of your audience so you would know how best to communicate to them in order for you, of course, to relay your message properly.
Okay, so basically this is more like a way for communication institutions or perhaps industries, brands to really target, no, to achieve their communication goals to their targeted audience. So it's a way to connect. Thank you. How about you, Sir Norman?
Yeah, thanks RR, and thanks also Michelle for sharing that. No, before the this session started, nagkukwentuhan kami, and we were talking about how there was no strategic communication in college when we were in college. Um, in fact, also in the industry where I work in, which is advertising and public relations, it's only very recent, no, recent, maybe in the last 15 years maximum na yun, where strategic communication became a department within the agency or the advertising agency or PR agency. No? Before that, ako kasi pumasok ako ng industry way before 15 years ago. So there was no stratcom person within the agency. We were all either writers or art directors. So taga-design kami ng brochure or taga-sulat kami ng content ng brochure, no? Or we would write articles for newspapers, or we would design print ads, or we would create storyboards by drawing each storyboard, each picture for the TV commercial, and then writing the copy under each frame. No? But those are really, uh, in truth, that's craft. Craft writing and drawing is a craft. No, what I'd like to think of Stratcom as the logic behind the magic. So, if, for example, writing the output is magic, the thinking behind the writing is the logic, which is strategic communication. So, for me, the best, even the ones I've worked with, the best writers, the best art directors are the ones who think. No, they become more effective in writing because, as Michelle pointed out, they know who their target audience is. They design their works based on what the audience wants, and therefore, their works are better understood and appreciated by their audiences. No? So that's the simplest way I'd like to think of Statcom. It's the intelligence behind the art. Right? It's again the logic behind the magic.
Yeah, I think I would agree, Sir Norman, no, that usually that's the reason why this field is not that mainstream, because usually what we do in the field of communication designing and strategic communication is we are the quote unquote behind the brands, diba? So we are the ones na back, kumbaga nasa behind the curtain, which is hindi masyado. But if you look at the successful brands that we have today, di ba? Like for example, SM Supermalls, you have Cebu Pacific, Union Bank. Those brands are in the mainstream because of the people like you in the like us in the industry who are in communication design and strategic communication. So Sir Norman and Miss Michelle, in your years of being communication practitioner, what would you consider as the highlight so far of your illustrious careers? Maybe we can start with Sir Norman, since you've been in the industry for over 30 decades.
Well, I began as a writer, no, RR. So, um, I would write what my bosses would ask me to write. No, while it was fulfilling at that time, it was more fulfilling when I was the one already deciding on what to be written and why. Uh, and again, that's also because of strategic communication. These things you learn, well, at least during my time, uh, you learned it while on the job. No? So again, we never really understood. No? We were wordsmiths as writers. We knew our grammar was good. No? We had a good vocabulary. No? But uh, being coherent, writing in a way that persuades, for example, that requires a lot of thinking. No? So I would say that when I eventually equip myself with the skills to be able to determine the whys and not just the what to write, but the why you're writing it and how to write it, therefore to achieve your objective. When I graduated to that step, when I was already able to uh, dictate the whys and the hows, that was more fulfilling. No? So eventually I got to be writing and strategizing for brands already, instead of just writing the ads or writing the press releases. Now, as I was already involved in the discussion with client on why communication has to go one route or the other, no? So mas exciting for me yung mga debate na ganon, no? Because again, you have a bigger say as to the outcome of the communication.
Okay, thank you, sir. How about you, Miss Michelle? What would you consider as so far as the highlight of your career as communication designer and as a communication practitioner?
Yun, no? So, ako, medyo newbie pa ako sa industry na to. But really, what I would consider as my highlight by far is the current situation. Because we all know that this pandemic, diba, being very unprecedented. So, everyone had to be agile because the situation was very fluid. So, ako personally, I consider it a highlight because Corpcom in itself, you'll never have a dull moment. So, every single day you learn a new thing. Pero this pandemic placed like a whole different level. May bago na talaga siyang um, aspect to it. As in talagang
True.
kinailangan na ganun kabilis yung pag-isip. And like what Norman said earlier, no, when you are part of the team actually thinking of why you want to communicate something, it's more fulfilling.
Yeah.
Not just crafting it, not just
Yeah.
drafting it peaceful, but actually thinking it thinking it through. What exactly do you want to say and why do you want to say it and how best will you be able to say it? So this past year throughout this pandemic, I learned so many things. Parang I could say ang bilis ng naging learning curve ko, honestly, because of all the things that has happened and continue to happen. And walang one size fits all na solution eh. So talagang it tests you and it challenges you to think outside the box while using best practices as your guide also.
Thank you, Miss Mitch. Sir Norman said earlier that he started his career in the communication industry as a writer. No? So there is also a common perception among students in senior high school or even like the younger ones. They think that for me to pursue a degree in communication, I should have exceptional knowledge of the English language. I should be an excellent communicator. Do you think it is really a requirement for them to pursue a degree in communication? Maybe we can start with you, Sir Norman.
For me, it's helpful, but it's not the only thing that makes you succeed. I know very successful communicators who present, for example, in their local dialect. They're not necessarily experts in English, but because they're thinkers, they know they are able to evaluate if the work will sell or not. No, they're not necessarily. They have somebody else that teams up with them to check the grammar, etc. But they are able to see a piece of work on a deeper level. No, so hindi lang grammar yung sinecheck niya. He's able to look at let's say a radio commercial and say, alam mo, it's not going to work kasi hindi ito ang problema ng bibili ng gamot mo, no? So it does not reflect or mirror the experiences of whoever is going to listen to the radio commercial. So that person has the ability to see that, no? And then pagagawa na niya, hindi naman sa iuutos niya, no? But he has somebody else to craft it for him, no? But the thinking is his, no? So it helps, of course, that you have great communication skills, but you will survive if, at least in strategic communication, if you see your role as something bigger than just language. No? What's more important is your ability um, to find meaning. Meaning, ang hirap lang explain kasi medyo abstract, no? But not just the words or the pictures, but figuring out what the print a print ad, for example, communicates versus the actual words, no? So sometimes a print ad, let's say, communicates a feeling, no? Sometimes it communicates information, no? So the strategic communicator can evaluate, oh, mali ang feeling nito. we are gamot tayo, no? So we should, ang dating dapat natin is nakakatulong sa ibang tao. So the print ad has to feel that way, that we are helping people, making them feel better. But this ad, no, it doesn't work that way, no? So even if his grammatical skills are not perfect, but if he or she can evaluate a print ad, uh, and therefore claim that a print ad is not working or is working based on what he sees, or what he or she sees, then he's still effective, no? Pero yung nga, meron siyang katandem na tutulong sa kanya.
Yeah, that's true. No, that to be a good um, practitioner of strategic communication, language is good. To know, to have a very good communication skills is very good, but it's more than that. It's about critical thinking,
Yon, that's it,
creativity,
critical thinking, yeah.
being observant, empathetic. Yes. How about you, Miss Michelle, being a spokesperson of a very well-known brand? Would you think that it is really essential to have an very, very good communication skills or an excellent knowledge in the English language?
I agree with what Norman said earlier, no? And you were also able to summarize it very well, RR. Kasi it's a plus. It's definitely a plus, especially if, say, in my post na talagang spokesperson. So, there might be times na ako na bahala on my own siya, di ba? So, it's very helpful that I am equipped with somehow strong verbal and then written skills, no? But I would say I would tie this back to knowing your audience pa din. Kasi Norman mentioned earlier, kung dialect ka makikipag-usap at talagang English yung first language mo, edi hindi ka maiintindihan nung intended audience mo, intended recipients ng message, right? So, hindi siya necessarily a must, but it will definitely be helpful. Balik tayo pa rin, audience and empathy. You also mentioned empathy is very important, and
That's
inclusivity
correct.
as well. Kasi kailangan talaga, kailangan mo ipakita whenever you communicate that you know who you're talking to. That's why this is what you're saying and this is how you're saying it. Because it's really for them.
Siguro to add, RR, no, and this might be practical knowledge. Ako, I prefer to hire people who think rather than hire people who can write, pero mali lagi yung sinusulot nila dahil it does not hit the right audience, it does not, reflect the true marketing situation. Mas gusto ko yung nag-iisip, tapos ako na mo-correct ng grammar niya kung kailangan, no? But I prefer to hire people who think.
Yeah, that's true, no, that to be in this field, no, it's kailangan talaga natin, you have to be very observant, empathetic, you have to be a constant learner of life, di ba? You have to be always on the lookout, di ba? You have to be very innovative. And I think those are the skills that students should prepare as well, di ba? Because others, based on my experience being in the academy for the past few years, some of the students who are about to enroll communication, they are very, very, especially senior high school students, no? They are very, very afraid to take communication course because, sir, I can't because hindi ako magaling mag-English, hindi ako magaling magsulat. I only know the basics. But I always tell them that it's not everything, 'di ba? To take a communication degree, hindi kailangan na napakagaling mong mag-English, napakagaling mong magsulat, as long as you have that in you to be critical, to be creative, and to open yourself for more learnings, di ba? Because even ako, I've practiced public relations, but I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm constantly learning, even as a part of the academy. I'm constantly learning. So right now, as we face a global pandemic, things have changed. What would you say? How would you say that the field of strategic communication is still relevant today? What makes it relevant now in our current environment? Miss Michelle, being a spokesperson uh, of an airline, what do you think, right, is our relevance of this field today?
very, very relevant ang strategic communications right now talaga. Because we can see it's a global pandemic, right? So all businesses right now are struggling to effectively communicate while at the same time ensuring you are sensitive enough na hindi ka tone deaf sa nangyayari around you. Kasi it's one thing to keep promoting, pero baka biglang, ay, hindi mo kino-consider kung ano yung nangyayari around you. So, hindi siya magiging effective, right? So, it's really challenging, and that's why strategic communications is very helpful because it will help us find that balance also. And become strategic nga para mas maayos yung pagbuo natin ng ating mismong comms.
Yes. How about Sir Norman? Would you like to
No.
add?
Yes, I'd like to echo what Michelle said. No, during the pandemic, consumers change, the behaviors change, the attitudes change. No, ngayon people are working and staying at home. They're quarantined. Hindi nila makita yung mga kaibigan nila. Hindi sila pwedeng gumimik sa gabi. Our lives have changed. So, if you are still communicating the way you were communicating before the pandemic, hindi ka strategic. You've got to develop communication, again, that reflects the condition, the situation of your consumers today. No? So, hindi ako makabili ng chicken McNuggets sa McDonald's dahil quarantine or sarado ang malls or whatever. De gawin kong available yung chicken McNuggets sa grocery since bukas ang grocery. So I buy it frozen. I mean, thinking like that is very critical at this time, no? Because we've got to all adjust. No? Ang word nga ngayon ay pivot. No? We have to pivot ourselves to be able to match kung ano yung attitudes, behaviors ng consumers sa panahong ganito. No? And when slowly, eventually, society opens up again, no? Magbabago ulit yan. So we will always have to adjust depending on the situation of our consumers and the situation of the country, for example.
Yeah, that's true, no? That now more than ever, brands should be more proactive. They have to be more sensitive, diba? So that's why our field, strategic communication and communication design, is really, really needed now more than ever. So a lot of our students are still confused or like they are wondering, ano nga ba yung trabaho ko right after graduation? Will I be a spokesperson? Will I be a writer? Because there are, maybe because again, hindi nga nila masyadong alam pa. Kasi yung alam talaga, when I think of communication, gusto ko maging journalist. Gusto kong maging broadcaster. Gusto kong maging news presenter. Those are the things that are immediately nila na nalalaman. But in the field of communication design and also in strategic communication, what are the possible jobs or careers these students can have right after they graduate? Maybe we can start with you, Sir Norman.
Well, siguro sa amin, in my industry, it's a bit clearer because nga nagbukas na ng strategic communication departments in advertising agencies. So if you do enter an ad agency or a creative agency and your background is strategic communication, it's highly possible that you will be placed in the Stratcom department. What you will be doing there is finding insights about consumers. Yun nga, basically, I gave you already an example, no, how consumers change because of situations happening. No? So we try to, a Stratcom person often looks for trends. Momentum is the better word. No? So for example, there was a time, let us say 10 years ago, na hindi uso ang skincare products for men. Pambabae lang yan. No? But 10 years ago, people were noticing, no? And the strategic communication people specifically were the ones who spotted it. They're trend spotters. Alam mo, magiging uso yan. Kasi ang dami ko na nakita mga lalaki pumupunta sa salon imbes sa barberia. So nagiging vanidoso na sila. So it's very likely that there will be skincare products for men. And true enough, nangyari yun. No? So Dove came out with its own line. Nivea also did. Whereas before that, exclusively for women yung mga produkto ng Dove, for example, or ng Nivea, no? So if you are in a StatCom department, most likely your role will be to research about consumers, to find out what are the trends happening, to figure out what the next flavor of ice cream might be based on your readings of the environment. No? You might not be actually doing the copy yourself or developing the storyboard for the ads, but you will be the brains behind what the art director or copywriter eventually execute.
Yes. How about you, Miss Michelle? What could
Buo
what
na yung buo na nasabi ni Norman, no? Pero apart from advertising, well, you can also be part of the companies mismo. Like myself in corporate communications or even in the marketing team. Kasi in our company, nakadikit, no, yung teams na yon. So, we would be needing to observe also those trends, even internally. Para nga we would be able to spot, say, if may something na potentially baka maging problema.
Yun.
Really that. Oo, kasi
Issues management.
yes, crisis management, crisis
Correct.
communications, very
Correct.
important. Oo, part din siya. Apart from knowing what your audience or what your customers would want to buy right now, it's really also taking notice of what can be a problem in the coming weeks. So, madaming opportunities na pwede for communication graduates. We can't just say na as agency ka, ganito. Kasi even within the agency, malamang pwedeng iba-ibang departments din
Yeah.
yung mapuntahan, di ba?
Yeah.
No, Norman? Oo. So,
Correct.
even in companies as well, pwede kang nasa PR, pwede kang nasa marketing, or even sa stakeholder team if may ganun yung company ninyo. Or internal communications, because strategic comms is also needed when it comes to talking to your own employees, especially if talagang malaking company kayo. So madaming possible opportunities for communication graduates.
I think Michelle raised a very important point, no? If, for example, you are a writer by heart also, and you happen to have the skills to write, no, but you learned strategic communication in college, no, that will in fact make you a better writer, no?
True.
So go ahead, become a writer if you wish, no, and allow your strategic communication skills to bring you further in your career. Actually, yung mga nagiging boss eventually ng mga pool of writers or art directors are the ones who think nga eh. So, if you do get into Stratcom in your university, that is a plus for me. It's a reason why you will have better chances of going up the corporate ladder.
I agree also. At least nga, the students right now, meron na silang, I consider it a privilege for them. At least they'll be taught of principles already, even in school pa. Kasi nga kami, we had to learn on the job. And we continue to learn every single day, right? So at least ngayon, for them, they have this opportunity. They can be taught principles that they can bring with them when they actually go outside na and work after school. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. That's and also to add that also Miss Michelle and Miss Sir Norman that not only in private institutions that students with a degree in communication can work, diba? They can work in the government perhaps, even
Yeah.
Of course.
LGUs or even non-government organization as part of the team because as what they have mentioned earlier, our role in the strategic communication is to spot for trend, diba? And not only and also we are solvers.
Yep.
We are the logic behind the brand, so there's a lot of opportunities and careers that is in store for communication graduates. We also have a lot of questions from our students asking now if they want to really succeed right after graduation, what are the things that they should be doing while they're still in school? Should they be like be preparing na their portfolio? Should they be volunteering na ba to some organizations? What would be your advice to these students who are preparing na for their future or right after years after graduation? Maybe we can start with you, Ma'am Michelle.
For me, no, I think it's really gather as much experience as you can while you're in school, because experience is the best teacher, honestly. I mean, you can be taught all the theoretical principles, right? But the application kasi talagang you need to be out there in order for you to know which one you're supposed to use, which one is the most appropriate in a certain situation. So, experience talaga. And apart from that, network will also help. Kasi you have to remember no na these people you are in school with, kayo-kayo din yung magkakasama at magkikita-kita kapag lumabas kayo ng school. So helpful na as early as possible, pwedeng mag-start na kayo. You can, touch bases para in the future, it will be very, very helpful.
Yes. How about Sir Norman? What advice can you give to our students right now if they want to really they want to have a promising career right after they graduate?
Perfect yung answer ni Michelle, no? Experience and networking. No? But just to put a little more dimension that and to echo that and add to it, no? Um, I'm going to refer to an earlier question when you were asking, for example, is language important, etc. For me, um, what you need to be doing right now, again, is doing everything but forming opinions on what you do. So, for example, um, listen to all the radio commercials that you can. Watch TV, watch on Netflix, and be discriminating about the movies. No, don't just watch the movies, but you ask yourself, why did I like this? No, you practice your critical thinking. No, but ayoko yung ad na to versus eto, right? So that you are aware of how communication materials affect you as a consumer of content. No? It's important to come to the office with an opinion. Hindi yung uutusan kang gumawa ng copy, yun lang kaya mo. No? Pero gagawa ka ng copy or uh, you will be able to evaluate bad copy versus good copy. It's important to develop critical thinking. No? And the only way to be able to do that is to practice that through experience. Right? So again, watch everything that you can watch, taste different types of food, but form an opinion. Ito malansa, ayoko to, no? Hindi papatok ito. Or watch all the TikTok videos and decide, ito magiging viral ito dahil, and then you figure out why. Right? Form an opinion and practice your critical thinking.
Correct.
What do you think, Michelle?
I lost you.
Yes, sir. That's I agree, and I think also um, that's the advantage of our school in Southwestern University is that we allow students to be exposed. Like,
Dead air.
Yes, okay. So I agree. Critical thinking talaga very important. And
Yeah,
dahil nga right now the social media naman is very accessible and we're all in our homes, right? So
yeah.
these students have the opportunity to actually take advantage of the technology that we have right now so they can keep exposing themselves. They can watch whatever they can or like read whatever they
Yeah.
can right now, and just really familiarize themselves with what's going on, kasi it will help them nga. I like that, no, Norman, when you said form your own opinion,
Mm.
kasi it will also help them understand how they are as a consumer. Like when you actually try looking at communications from another lens. Like kung kunwari, lalabas ka dun sa work mo, pag nagtatrabaho na sila, lalabas
Mm.
sila sa company or what, and then you look at the regular consumer, kung pwede ba to sa kanya and everything. So it will help you understand how, say, each type of audience or each type of demographic thinks, kung anong kailangan, which will ultimately help in honing your skills as a strategic communicator.
Diba? At saka kayang gawin natin
sorry,
yun eh.
nawala ako, no? Patawad sa internet.
That's no problem. No problem. I was just going to say, exacto, no, what Michelle was saying. I mean, you can practice it even by being on Facebook. No, why did I like this post? No, but ko nagustuhan yon?
Analyze mo,
And
no?
then
Isipin mo.
correct. And then you will discover insights there. Eh. Kasi meron siyang natamaan ako, no, by yung sinabi yung for example, na-touch ako sa wording ng post or whatever, no? You will discover may mga magiging eureka moments yun eh. So you gather all of these eureka moments na and you can eventually use them in your field of work later on. Eh. The discoveries that you made
Discoveries, that's it.
by simply living and
Mm,
immersing yourself in your daily activities, you will discover so many things which you can use at work later on.
definitely talaga.
Mm.
Oo. Every single day is an opportunity to learn.
Yep.
Lagi. Like, if maybe all of us wrote down whatever new insight or new discovery we had for that single day, ang dami. Siguro thousands yung masusulat natin per
Yep.
year. Tapos balikan mo siya, edi, alam mo yun, meron kang sarili mong playbook of some sort.
I love it. Playbook.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You're back, RR.
Sorry, sorry talaga. Medyo nagkakaproblema tayo sa connection. So, as what I'm saying earlier, I think that's the advantage really of Southwestern University's program in communication is that we allow students to work with the industry as early as year 2
Yon.
because we
Perfect.
believe that napaka-importante talaga ng experience para at
Mhm.
least when they graduate or right after they leave Southwestern University, hindi lang theories yung alam nila, but as well as they also have experience.
How does that work, RR? So second year, you dispatch them to work as interns, gan ba yon? You deploy them to different companies. Is that how it works?
Yes, yes. Actually, we
Nice.
work with
Nice.
we are working with external clients na, and also the format is we are working now with actual communication problems that they will be solving para at
Perfect.
least alam na nila kung ano talaga yung mga ins and outs and the know-how of the industry.
Very good. Equipped na sila paglabas nila,
Mm.
bale. May bala.
May
Hindi yung,
bala.
yes, so hindi yung battlefield na lang diretso, at least may
Mm.
baon sila.
Yes. We have a question here. What do you think now is the biggest crisis or challenge that the both of you faced in your illustrious careers in the field of communication? Maybe we can start with you, Sir Norm, since you've been in the industry for almost 3 decades now.
Crisis. Um,
O pinakamalaking crisis or biggest challenge na na-face mo in your career, sir?
ang daming maliliit. Eh. I don't know if there's a really big one. Ang daming maliliit na mini crises that we deal with. And because as an agency, we work with many clients, yon, so maraming iba-ibang uri ng crisis. So, dati hawak namin ng super ferry, nasunog, yung mga ganyan. Or dati hawak namin ng SMDC, may tumalon mula top floor hanggang sa swimming pool. Yung mga ganon. No? And then how do we communicate that everything is okay, that everything is under control, and stuff like that. There was a time we were handling, this is a brand no one will remember anymore, Black and White. It was a skin whitening product. No? It was released into the market. Ang daming nagalit na consumers, no, for why are Filipinos using whitening products, no? Pero ngayon, look, every drugstore has a whitening product, but at that time it was a crisis for this company that was just simply ahead of its time in releasing a product that could whiten skin, no? Those are little that I don't consider them big crises yet because solvable ba yan naman. I mean, people are reasonable beings. No? So if you communicate properly, they will understand the problem and see your point of view, and the crisis eventually dissipates. Other types of crises are involving agency and client relationship, no. It could be a crisis, a challenge rather, no. In for example, uh, it's a communication problem that has never been done settled before, and we are new, and we therefore have to come up with a new solution, things like that, no. Or sometimes the client really does not have the answer. We don't know what to do. Can you help us? Those are small challenges, but nonetheless challenges that we all like to accept, especially if you're in the business of thinking. Kasi um, buhay natin yan, being able to solve a problem by simply thinking and developing a communication that solves whatever marketing or corporate communication problem there was. So ang daming challenges. I mean, ang buhay ng communicator is solving through communication. So every day presents a challenge of some sort. Yon.
I agree. Every single day talaga. So, sobrang dami ng pwedeng mangyari kasi you will never really know kung
Yeah.
puputok ba to, magiging crisis ba to,
Yeah.
or chill ba ako today? Parang ganun. I mean, really putting it in very layman's terms, no? Parang ako din, if I think about it, there are a lot of, or I have had my fair share of operational crisis, of course, being 24/7 yung flights, at least pre-pandemic. So, each flight na yon, madaming passengers, madaming pwedeng maapektuhan, madami ding pwedeng mangyari talaga. So, I wouldn't really consider them yung biggest though. But I would say, if challenge, etong current pandemic, talagang very, very challenging siya because we all had to shift, pivot, like what Norman said earlier. We all had to shift and become very agile. And ang dami mong mga madami kang mga markets na kailangan mong i-consider, not just your internal customers, your external also, pero ang dami mong kailangan i-consider, right? And very challenging na nga yung mismong environment that you're operating in. So, I think what I want to say lang talaga, sa challenges, tanggapin lang natin siya because each challenge is an opportunity for us to become better and to grow. So, yeah, it's part of life. It's what makes comms exciting, honestly. Kasi nga, problem solvers tayo. And at the same time, it's okay. We will not always know the right answer. But it's part of the thrill. It's part of the journey. Yeah. Merong ongoing for Cebu Pacific. I'm sure it's known by the public also na apart from these operations, syempre meron tayong mga flight cancellations which resulted in a number of refunds, and dahil nga the people right now are all cash strapped and are very challenged by this environment, financially especially. So, yun, ongoing siya, honestly. But it's really finding that balance and making sure that you are still empathic when it comes to communicating with them, and transparency is also very important. Like tulad na nasabi ni Norman earlier na people naman are reasonable beings, no? But of course, you will have your fair share of customers also na baka hindi. And that's where crisis management comes into play. Kasi you really cannot please all your customers. You cannot please everyone. So talagang merong here and there, iba ng opinions, do not agree with what you are doing as a company. But again, it's part of the journey. It's part of your job as
Right.
community.
Hello, I'm Gabe. I'm the voice from the clouds. While Sir R is trying to connect, I'm curious. This is a personal question for me, and thank you guys, by the way, for that insight on crisis, common challenges. But for me, as a fellow practitioner, asking more esteemed practitioners, how do you guys feel about and I asked this prior. Then, how do you guys feel about crunch culture in the industry? Like just the thought of you have to be stressed all the time to reach that creative state of mind. Maybe Sir Norman has something to say pa first.
Um, you eventually, tama yung sinabi ni Michelle. I love her mindset that uh, you have to treat every challenge, every stressful situation as an opportunity to become a better practitioner. If your mindset is like that, the stresses become wala na. I mean, it's something that you accept as something that you will need to become better people, no? Um, Ako kasi per se, I'm a crammer. That's how I've been since
Mm.
grade school. So I thrive in it. Sometimes I will prepare for a talk just the night before. But my adrenaline is really up, and I figure I'm more creative when the adrenaline is there. But that's my working style. Others are not that way, no? Others are probably they have better ways of managing their stress, no? But if you think of stress as something that will uh, what do you call this, provoke you, or what is the better
Motivate
word?
you, drive.
Motivate. That's a great word. To motivate you to become better, use it, no?
Mm.
um Pati nga yung mga kanina pinag-usapan namin ni Michelle, yung mga kaba before speaking engagements, eh. But it will always be there. But if you use that stressful situation as a way to make you better, then do it, no? Kasi uh, that's I think is a positive way of dealing with stress and crunch time, as you put it, Gabe.
Mm. Thanks, sir. Miss Mitch.
I agree. It really varies. Kasi we all have our own ways of working. And depending nga siya if we treat the stressor as something that would pull us down
Mm.
or something that will help us become better or become more productive, become more creative. Iba siya eh. Personally, medyo ganun din ako. Like when I'm actually pushed outside my comfort zone and to my limit na, tapos parang sobrang dami, lahat urgent, parang tipong iisipin mo, okay, I will have to do everything,
Mm.
gagawin ko siya.
Yeah.
Kahit minsan nga nila last minute siya because it works for me. But your question is more on if I will require my teammates to practice the same, then no. Kasi pwedeng hindi
Correct.
effective for them yun eh. Pwede kasing para sa kanila, they want front-loading. So,
That's true.
kailangan a week before, tapos na. So, kung ganun yung nag-work for them, then be it. Then it's something you have to agree within your team and adjust properly. Kailangan kasi familiar kayong lahat eh, in order for you to work effectively. Of course.
Ganda nun. Kumbaga, do not impose your style on the rest of
Mm-mm.
Right.
Tama nga
Unfair
naman.
eh, di ba?
Tama nga naman.
Mm-mm.
Bilang type double, ano yun? Type double A personality. Okay, we have actually one question here from one of our students. A very basic question, sir. I would like to ask, what is the difference between working on PR and working as a communication strategist? Is it just the same, or are there any differences? Maybe Miss Mitch has more authority on this.
Hmm. Napaisip din ako doon. PR versus Stratcom.
Mm.
Stratcom kasi talaga, the way I see it is very broad. Again, what I mentioned earlier, it's multidisciplinary. So it involves PR. Branch siya somehow. So kailangan mo kasi ng different aspects of communications in order for your strategy to become successful or in order for you to carry it out efficiently. Right? So hindi siya talagang ma-differentiate ko ba siya? Baka kasi mas specific. If talagang your focus is PR, then you'd have to be handling or managing, ensuring that the public perception is good for your company, for your client, right? But if strategic comms, mas malawak yung hawak mo. That I think is the simplest difference I could think. Norman,
Right.
Tama.
anything
No?
you can add?
Yeah, just to add, no, tama eh, Statcom is discipline neutral. It's a foundation for me. Kumbaga, whether if you probably are working in PR or in advertising or journalism or some other form of communication, filmmaking, whatever. But all of these different types of disciplines will need thinking, and that's strategic
Mm.
com. No?
Yep.
So whether you branch out to whatever type of communication later, your foundation will still be thinking. No? Again, this is uh, the thinking is the logic that will make the magic happen.
I
Right.
like that. Logic behind the magic.
Hmm.
That's what you
Exactly.
said
Quotable
earlier.
quote earlier. Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't attribute that to me. I picked that. I teach Stratcom kasi, no? And the
Mm.
first book that I read was by on the topic was by Bill Bernbach. Ata. He's a creative director based in the UK. And parang first page pa lang, sabi ko, oh my God, eksakto, no? How to condense the entire,
Mm.
meaning of strategic communication to that to that phrase simply worked for me, and I've been using it ever since.
I will ask you about that book after
Yeah.
this talk, Sir Norm.
Same here.
We have our last question here because I think we're running out of time. Last question is, would you consider Stratcom a rewarding, something rewarding personally and professionally? Who would like to go first? Well, you had to think about it.
Then naghihintay lang kami sino
Mm.
tatawagin mo.
Sir Norm?
Yes,
Mm.
definitely. When my alma mater called me 12 years ago to say, Norman, it's time that you give back to the school. Can you please teach Stratcom because it's not being taught, and all the ad agencies already have Stratcom in their Stratcom departments in their. Yes, it's been very fulfilling for me to be in it. I've been blessed, I think, to have worked before in an ad agency network that had very strong strategic thinking as part of its DNA. Um, it has changed the way I view life in general. I no longer just take things passively. Ay, nangyari to. Para now I'm forced to think about the reasons why things are happening the way that they do, no? And what causes one thing to to happen, no? Ano yung causality that's happening, no? Um, it's very fulfilling because I'm no longer working in autopilot mode. Alam mo yung ito lang bibilhin ko. Hindi, I don't know if it's now naging ano ako what do you call this? OC na ako comparing the ingredients of brands, di ba? Na mas mahusay ito yung mga and I think that's a good thing. Again, to have an opinion, to practice critical thinking, to not just live life as it happens, no, but to find meaning behind things. I think that's a good thing.
I agree. Yeah. It really is a good thing. And yes, definitely fulfilling siya. Kasi ang dami mo matututunan eh. And it's continuous. It will not end at just say, I graduate or I finish one project when you're already working. And then that's it na. Hindi siya ganun. Kasi even as you go about your daily life, ang dami mo ngang maiisip once you've developed that skill. If critical thinker ka na, every little thing, posibleng isipin mo, bakit siya ganito? Ganito ba dapat talaga? Parang you start questioning. Not a bad thing also for me. Kasi at least you'd be able to know more. You'd be able to know yourself more, actually. For me lang ha. Kasi talagang you'd know your why and you know what works. And that will help when you are a strategic communicator.
And to add, no, I like yung you sabi mo, you begin to ask questions, you understand the whys, and it becomes a life skill. It's a skill you don't just practice at work anymore. No? It becomes a problem solving skill for anything. Kasi you begin to ask questions like, what if, yung mga ganun eh. Parang even in your house, hindi ka pa nakapag-grocery, no? Ito lang ingredients ko sa cabinet, no? But what if, kinombine ko ito, you become thinkers like that. And you probably will create a new dish. I don't know, no, but you will never be able to create that new thing if you did not think, if you did not uh, put this ingredient with that ingredient, never been done before. But what if gawin ko kaya, no? And it's a life skill that will help you solve any type of problem eventually.
True, true.
So thank you so much, Sir Norman and Miss Michelle, for sharing your thoughts, your insights to our senior high school students and incoming freshman students, as well as our current communication students about really the ins and the outs, the know-how of the industry. I'm sure right now they already have an idea what communication design is, what strategic communication is. And once again, on behalf of SW School of Design plus Communication, we thank you so much for your time in sharing with us, sharing with our students, and of course with our prospect students. So for those who are watching, if you have questions to us, you may email it at sdc1 at swu.finma.edu.ph if you have questions or inquiries. And in the next 2 weeks, we have the part three and the final series of our career talk, and we will be focusing on your how to become the best architect that you can be. Once again, thank you, Sir Norman. Thank you, Miss Michelle. Thank you to Gabe for covering up earlier. This is RR, and once again, maayong hapon and have a great day.